There appears to be a bit of a problem here. Okay, I see that I'm live. For some reason, it's having trouble connecting on the StreamYard end. Okay, now I'm actually live. Let's hope that happens on Rumble. There's some sort of error going on right now. Please tell me if you see me live on both YouTube and Rumble. I'm not seeing any Rumble chats. I think something's messed up there somehow. That's really, that's unfortunate. Very unfortunate. Okay, apparently I am live, but I'm not live on Rumble. Something's wrong. I know that I put the info in properly. I'm wondering, can I change the settings from here? I don't know that I can do that from the studio. Well, shit. Yeah, I think that Rumble is having... yeah, it says offline. I think Rumble's having a problem right now. Let me, I'm going to go out of the studio for a minute. Just let me back out of the studio. I'll be right back in. Let me check the Rumble connection really quickly here. So just give me up to a minute or thereabouts. Be right back. All right, I believe we are not going to be able to be live on Rumble today. Maybe they're updating something. Oh, now there are people watching on Rumble. But for some reason, it's not showing the video or the Rumble chat. I'm not exactly sure what the hell is going on. I don't know if you can see me if you're watching on Rumble. My apologies. I don't know if you can hear me. Obviously, I can't give apologies if you can't. Something seriously wrong, and it's not on my end. I put everything in. I just checked properly. So anyway, we'll get right into the news, I suppose. And Jesus, fucking everything's glitching out here. We got big problems. FBI whistleblower says SWAT teams are being misused. J6 defendants' rights are being trampled. A suspended agent says he and others are being listed as affiants on search and arrest warrant affidavits for subjects whom they have never investigated nor even interviewed. An FBI whistleblower has reported to the Office of Special Counsel that he believes the Bureau of and Justice Department are violating the constitutional rights of J6 defendants, falsifying statistics on domestic extremism, and misusing SWAT teams to make misdemeanor arrests, according to the copy of a complaint received by Just the News. Special Agent Stephen M. Friend, who works for the FBI in Florida and serves as a SWAT member, told the main federal whistleblower office in Washington he had exemplary work record since he joined the Bureau in 2014 and even won awards, but was suspended in recent days after he began raising concerns about the FBI and DOJ's conduct in the January 6th investigation. I believed the investigations were inconsistent with FBI procedure and resulted in the violation of citizens' Sixth and Eighth Amendment rights, Friend wrote. I added that many of my colleagues expressed similar concerns to me, but had not vocalized their objections to FBI executive management. It's sort of like in a corporation, like you're not supposed to actually go to the suggestion box and put anything in there. If you do, you should type it up beforehand, because if they recognize your handwriting, then you risk getting fired. It's the same within an alphabet soup agency as anywhere else. It's not exactly a surprise now, is it? We've known for some time there is a very heavy-handed aspect of FBI involvement with regards to people in J6. Somebody who happened to be in the Capitol briefly, who committed no crime other than maybe simple trespass, might literally be in solitary confinement right now for over a year at this point, for literally nothing, where we're talking about people getting raided and having their doors broken down and their windows broken and flashbangs tossed in, based solely on the fact that they happen to have been there. It's unprecedented, actually, unless you look at maybe the Hoover years. The FBI tends to be quite heavy-handed, but to this degree, for this length of time with this scope, it's questionable. Now, it's clearly politically motivated. We already know that. But by the way, reload Rumble. Is it actually working now? Yeah, okay, we're actually live on Rumble, but there's now something wrong with the watch count. I guarantee it's more than 4 people. And Cam2425IA saying live. Okay, so there was a significant delay there. I don't know what the fuck's happening. Princess over on YouTube. Good morning, Sticks. Was watching your occult video this AM. Wanted to say, as an ex-Christian turned occult, what do you think about prayers being actual incantations? I have concluded that. I think I made a video actually on the subject some years ago. I agree. Prayers are a form of incantation. They're incantations that are doctrinally acceptable according to the reigning hegemon at the time. So you're in the religion, you're in the right religion, the mainstream one that has your prayers are acceptable. If you pray to some other entity, that's unacceptable. That's witchcraft and hoodoo and so forth. I agree. Adam THM. Sticks, wanted to give you a gas update again. Gas 2 weeks ago here in my part of Illinois was $3.50. Today it has went up again from $3.99 to $4.19. Oh boy, what timing, by the way, if this sort of thing hits right before the midterms. Best thing for it, really. Get the Democrats out of power. Shoo them aside into the dustbin of history where they belong. Mega Sea Monkey, good morning, Sticks. Do you like 70s prog rock such as Yes? Absolutely. I re-listened to their song Heart of the Sunshine and was reminded of how good this genre is. Yes, the irony is that Yes is a band that dates actually the late 60s originally, peaks in the 1980s. Owner of a Lonely Heart is one of the anthems of the era. The Landlord Harassment Channel, daily affirmations, even read silently, help a lot. By the way, there is a link pinned at the top of chat on YouTube and also pinned in the description on YouTube and on Rumble. We are sinking Cyprus into the ocean on Pixel Planet. In fact, let me open that link so that I can sporadically check it. I'm not doing Pixel Planet one-offs anymore. The site has been targeted by griefers, specifically by an individual called Aaron, who is Turkish. And, let me pixel in something right now. Ha, 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 ha. Bye-bye, island. Ha, ha, there we go. Anyway, in retaliation for them attempting and failing to grief us, because we've repaired all the damage fairly quickly, it looks like the Greeks, by the way, are retaking a bunch of their land, and clankers aren't necessary to help them at this time. We decided to disappear all of Cyprus, which they had taken over. They seemed obsessed with it, so when he goes live later, probably in about an hour or so, or maybe 2 hours, he'll be slightly surprised, I think. I do admire his griefing, though. Getting that many people together to grief Pixel Planet, which is literally just changing pixels on a giant world map. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I know I'm having fun. I don't know if he'll have fun when he sees what we did to Cyprus, though. The intro, Spectre. Today is the day I super chat. I have spoken. Salte. Morning, Sticks. A huge majority of Latinos despise the white liberal progressive appropriated term Latinx and POC, equating us beneath them. Yes, I'll be talking about that. Troy Amunga 000. My parents are in Italy at the moment. Any risk of Italo-Antifa riots in Rome that I should warn them about? Doubtful, because now the Italian police, of course, will be run by people who are supposedly Mussolini fascists, but really they're just, arguably, it's sort of like a MAGA movement, but not even quite that much. Princess. I believe it's the universe hearing me or the power of my mind. Still trying to figure out the truth. Love, some help. Again, I think I covered the subject. I believe that anything that changes your state of mind is a good thing, if it's used for a good purpose, of course, and can affect reality through the butterfly effect. I do believe in a more literal occult than that, though. There are entities out there, in my opinion, just my opinion that I've experienced personally and anecdotally, that go beyond the mundane, super mundane entities, you can call them. You can call them a demon or whatever you want to term them, that's fine. I believe that they can affect reality, but I do not believe in fate. I do not believe in determinism. I believe that things can be guided. They can be nudged in a direction or in another direction, but I think ultimately your actions are meaningful and that you should therefore carefully guard them. Next news story. Stop using LatinX if you really want to be inclusive. Less than 5% of U.S. Latins use Latinx as a racial or ethnic identity. I like it. Latines is their, I guess, replacement term. Now then, where does this come from? Salon.com. You will know Salon.com is one of the foremost pushers of the use of the inclusive term Latinx, along with People of color, which I have said now for several years, really reminds me of colored people. Now, if you go and use that particular terminology, even though it means exactly the same thing and is basically a doppelganger, that's outdated and terrible, and you sound like Archie Bunker. But if you say people of color, all of a sudden it's woke. It's very interesting how that happens. Most of the debates of the usage of LatinX, pronounced LatinX, of course, you've got to put that Latin spin on Latin, I guess, or some shit like that, have taken place in the US. But the word has begun to spread into Spanish-speaking countries, where it hasn't exactly been embraced. That's because of linguistic differences, of course. There is a much more hardline separation within the Latin language system than there is in the very, very malleable, arguably inferior English vocabulary. I hate to tell people who mainly, like myself, who mainly speak English, our language is constantly changing and morphing at an untenable rate. It's not the same as what you get with the Romance languages, generally speaking, and the diaspora thereupon. I don't know about Cyrillic. I know nothing about them. And I think there's something to be said for France as well, considering that they literally have a language police to document what they consider to be acceptable francophone terms versus slang that's been influenced by other languages, to try to keep language like linguistic purity. Considering that linguistics is foremost in propaganda, literally newspeak in 1984 style, yeah, there's something to be said for that. I don't know that a government bureaucrat should be making that decision, but yeah. Very interesting. It's very interesting that the same site that tried and failed, according to its own goal, I suppose, the concept of LatinX now is disowning the term. It's sort of like how Vox and Salon came out and said Venezuela was a glowing success that we should emulate back when Venezuela's economy was improving. The second that Chavez oil speculation became a problem economically and inflation began, all of a sudden, no, it was never socialist. Yeah, all of those successes, they were actually the result of capitalism. Will Gooding just got back home from the hospital the other day after a bad case of diverticulitis and perforated colon. Recommendation sticks for healing foods I can eat. I found bone broth to be pretty tasty. I'm not going to ask how you got a perforated colon, by the way. Hint, hint. Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know. I suppose follow the doctor's directions generally. You can also Google the issue or use a better search browser. The swamp cleaner. Make Italy great again. Miga. Yeah, Miga has a different meaning among other people. Black pillars online. Salte, latrine, what's the difference? Yeah, I do find it interesting that they've nudged it in that direction. Whoops. Shane Kina, I actually follow the Occupy Dems Twitter feed and other lib accounts on Twitter, and literally, overused as it may be, all of them completely suck. I do the same. I follow them religiously because I like to see the cringe, and I also like to be a reply guy for them because I know that I'm influential and charismatic enough to drive the point home. And it drives people nuts. And so then for some reason, I get called a far-right Christian nationalist, extremist, like, really, really out there. And it's very funny, especially when I weigh in on things like abortion or gay rights. And then they get completely screwed up because they can't understand why the far-right extremist doesn't care about gay people. Smooth Johnson. Sticks, did you see that I subtitled your Maloney video into Italian? A trans woman did the translation for me, believe it or not. Kind of her to do it accurately, since she's likely disagrees with it. It'd be funny if it wasn't actually accurate, and actually the subtitles say that I'm saying fuck Italy or something like that. It'd be an epic troll. Adam THM, Latin sounds like an Applebee's drink, not gonna lie. Yeah, that's the one that they don't have listed on the menu. It's like McDonald's secret menu. Sebastian Monroe. Gas in Wisconsin, 409 from 329 in a week, just in time. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of reports that gas prices all of a sudden are spiking. If you have a similar experience, please do try to document it and put it on my Twitter DM. I would love to have a good little roundup and say, oh shit, Biden's really screwing up now because it's going to be October in less than a week. Roscoe P. Coltrane, I lost interest on Pixel Planet when I couldn't draw birds on Georgie Storos's face. Huh. I didn't know that. Much of it's been unprotected. Silver Kestrel, could you do a video on the lore of Stolas? I already have, I think. You'll have to dig back through the occult playlist. OG Keck 9, hi Sticks. Real World Podcast wants to be your new alt tech platform. Instant payments to creators on Bitcoin. Check DM, sir, please, and thank you. Yeah, I keep getting offers. I've gotten over the last couple of months, and I don't know why, because it's like, I know on new tech I'm soaring, but on YouTube I'm basically dead in the water. We will be hitting 496 fairly soon, but it's a very slow process because YouTube forces me to fight with both arms and a leg tied behind my back against priority creators. I have noticed a huge uptick in the number of people trying to either sponsor me or get me to use their websites or apps. I can look into it, but Brian Zwar. Sticks, how will the students pay for their gender studies degree when they find out that Joe didn't have that ability in the first place? I don't know. Yeah, there's going to be a real problem if he does pass the student loan debt shuffle anyway. People get taxed on the debt forgiveness. I wonder if they realize that. Cannon Baller 2020, for your little one and a few energy drinks from 35 degree Minnesota. Thank you very much for the $50. I'll put it to good use. More than a few energy drinks, though, I will say. Music and fiction. I wonder when they'll go after Midas Touch next. Yeah, we'll be talking about some shit. Bringing us to our next news story, of course, right here. I apologize for linking out Shoe on Head because, you know, there's some leftoidism there. But, I mean, she hates liberals, too, like the entire left does. I wonder why the leftoids would not like Joe Biden. Isn't he such a likable guy? Anyway, the Occupy Democrats have been completely exposed as a money-making grift, something that I speculated fucking years ago, and I think everyone knew this. But now, here's some posts subjugate to this tweet. Hamish Mitchell actually breaking this. The Occupy Democrats election fund PAC, run by Omar Rivero, raised $797,000 from 2021 to 22. Decent amount. They contributed $0 to federal candidates, and they spent $577,000 on fundraising consultants. Oh, wait, it gets far better. Oh, Jesus. His follow-up. It turns out that $250,000 of the $797,000 went into a company owned by Omar and his brothers. But wait, it gets even better than that, because Omar Rivero very unwisely decided to respond to this, deleting the tweet shortly thereafter. Prepare for the ultimate grift tweet of all time from Omar Rivero at Omar Rivero Says on Twitter. If you understood the time and effort that goes into making viral memes and the impact that they have, you might respect our work more. Oh, fucking God. I love this so goddamn much. It takes so much money to make those memes. Meanwhile, I'm looking at the Occupy Dems page. What memes are you talking about? All you do is you make posts that are very hyperbolic, pitching to an echo chamber, and you say RT to agree. That's their memes. They literally made $250,000 doing this. How many people are involved with this? How much money did each of them get? Apparently, $250,000 went just to Omar himself, and a shit ton of other money went to fundraising consultants. I would love to see somebody dig through who got that money. This is the same with the Lincoln Project. The Lincoln Project has been taking money from gullible moronic saps now for years, pretending to be anything other than a bunch of pudgy neocons that are grifting. They made huge amounts of money, and it was pointed out, AOC called them out at the time, that their contribution to the 2020 election was one time they had a billboard. Everything else is strictly online. I have warned people over and over again about those who bitch online and pretend to be activists. Brooklyn Dad Defiant, the Koshiorellas of the world. Hell, there are plenty of right-wingers that do the same thing. They will be glad to peddle some fear porn to you on Twitter and take your money in the process and say that they're going to try to change things. But with the exception of people like Scott Pressler, they don't actually do anything in the real world. Hell, I'm head and shoulders above any of these morons because at the very least, I don't pretend to be an activist. I'm just making live streams and YouTube videos and shit. I love this. The Occupy Democrats getting exposed by the left, by the way. I can't even go, I think, to the main channel Hamish Mitchell, presumably leftoid. I'm blocked. This isn't a right-wing attack. It's not the right wing attacking you, Occupy Dibs. And then their subsequent response, if you look at their timeline, go on a tweet spree. And I think I know why. One thing they are good at is algorithms. They understand like how Twitter works. It seems like basically they got $250,000 to make tweets. Good grift, I suppose. And leftoids are dumb enough to actually give you that money, and liberals too. What they did was, because they knew they could potentially be trending because some big creators were getting wind of the story and dogpiling them, they immediately went on a slew of tweets so that those tweets, because they're a priority, a verified creator on Twitter would be at the top when people searched for them. How sleazy can you get? People should ram it home for multiple days in a row. Shu and others should definitely do this, because then eventually they'll run out of energy. Apparently their tweets are very expensive. They'll run out of money to make tweets. Oh, how sad. The poor little babies. Silky Johnson. What are some things Trump understands about Russia and Asian politics that others like Biden just don't? And why do they not understand? Because he did business in these countries, Russia, China, India, and elsewhere. He understands the decorum of the boardroom, and that basically is a trickle down to the business and military culture in general. Trump gets that. He knows when he goes into a boardroom in Korea, it's not going to be quite the same. The New York Times, I think, had a write-up about this one time years ago. And they were talking about the differentials between the kinds of boardroom and employee-employer interactions that happen in different countries. So in the U.S., it's very hierarchical. In some countries, not. In some countries, there's an attempt to sort of bounce ideas off each other. In other countries, it's more like a dictatorship or an oligarchy. I can't remember exactly when they released it. In certain Asian cultures, and Russia would be one of them effectively, it's not the same as doing business in Western Europe. Trump understands that. Biden doesn't have any business experience. His only business experience is through Hunter. Cat MD, I keep accidentally hitting the dislike button. Ignore. Cindy Drellick, just saw your debate with Dave Smith. I like some of Dave's content, but Dave argued on passion. You argued cool and collected with facts. Your cat wanted other side scratched this AM. Priceless. Yes, the cat was being very goofy this morning. Gary the Snail, Trump is shaping up to be the 47th president. I agree. Nikki Boy Floyd, God damn, it's good to hear your voice again, sir. Been out of power and self-service because of Hurricane Fiona in Canada. You're in Canada, you got bigger problems. Joker won on Rumble. Jimmy Carter declassified the stealth bomber by speaking about it in an open forum. Nobody charged Jimmy with the Espionage Act. Yeah, exactly. And because it was declassified by talking about it, if he had a piece of paper detailing the stealth bomber, like a crayon drawing that he made in his off time, that wouldn't be classified either. So yeah, the Occupy Dems getting completely slamma-jammed. Again, take that link in the description or at the top of chat if you're on YouTube, and help to use the ocean color that you see there to pixel in what little is left of Cyprus. I think I'll go dump some pixels on him myself. We're doing that basically just to grief. I'm not going to live stream the griefing, though. I have a feeling, wouldn't that be problematic? Because there's like, anime porn and swastikas everywhere. I don't know. I don't even know if it's within the rules of YouTube, especially to broadcast that shit. But they claim that they're going to take over the whole world. I'd like to see that happen. Next news story. Forget a soft landing. The market's best hope is a growth recession now. Let me explain the importance of this particular article. If I saw this and it was speculative, it's from Forbes or something, or The Economist, I wouldn't really care. I wouldn't be covering this. Here's why this is important. This is CNN Business. This is not an opinion piece. This is from CNN's business people. Nicole Goodkind is a specific author. What do we know about CNN? CNN literally gets its economic news directly from the White House. They are partnered with the Biden administration. They are effectively nothing more than a propaganda arm of the current reigning stewardship of the U.S. government. If the steward's propaganda arm on economic news, which is CNN first and foremost, is telling you there is no soft landing, sorry, the best we can hope for now is to avoid an outright goddamn crash. Don't you think that's a goddamn problem? This is from CNN. They take their news from the White House. They're not even broadcasting news. They're certainly not conducting journalism. They exist as a megaphone to amplify what Biden wants them to say. The fact that their own economics, their own business people here, they've got fear and greed index. Extreme fear is driving the US market. Do you think Biden wants to see this right now? When you've also got, apparently, as people are acknowledging all over the country, again, send me those fucking DMs on Twitter. I need to see pictures too. Apparently, gas prices are now skyrocketing. I don't know if the gas tax holiday ended or what's happening, but they're going back up. Unemployment's been ticking up. The Dow Jones just fucking collapsed by 1,600 points over the course of 2 days. The last thing that Joe Biden wants is for them to say, look, it's not going to be a soft landing. We're not going to be able to hike the interest rates to tackle inflation without unemployment going up and other problems. The best we can hope for is, this is what they're hoping for within this article. They're hoping for another great recession where unemployment doesn't get too high. Inflation comes down gradually. It's not coming down so far. Right now, it's still linear. And overall, you don't completely collapse things. You don't end up with a Great Depression. This is their hopeful news, economically speaking. Very interesting. The Fed darkened its tone at last week's policy meeting, warning of serious economic hardship ahead. And markets finally took the central bank at its word. Yeah, they were holding off because you were refusing to report on these things. You know, they read the news too, just to be clear, and everything was hunky-dory. You were painting that pile of shit, and they were seeing the paint on it, and they thought it wasn't shit for a while. But then the paint started to wear off because it's raining constantly in Bidenomics land, and the paint got washed away, and now they realize what they're dealing with is a sour turd. And so people are pulling out of the markets. The central bank's updated economic predictions last week showed that it expects to land in this scenario. Policymakers revised down their forecast for economic output through the end of 2024 and raised forecasts for the unemployment rate from their last projections published in June. So you will get stagflation. You will have long-term inflation. You will have market problems, and you will have a general downturn, a recession, in other words. They're finally using the R word too. Meanwhile, we're sending tens of billions to Ukraine. We're dicking around giving hundreds of billions to the U.S. government for Solyndra 2.0, for shovel-ready bullshit. We're giving money to everyone except for the American people, and the economy is on life support. You're going to end up with another great recession. You'll probably see that the housing market looks like it's ready to burst already. How much more negative economic news can one have at one time? You think that Trump's not capable of running on that platform alone if he runs in 2024? Hey, remember me, the guy that oversaw a good economy where you could make ends meet? Yeah. Well, I'm back, baby. Fucking vote for me. I think he could basically just say that. He could show up at the rallies and say, look at the economy right now, and then look at the way that it was before the China virus. Fucking vote for me. And he'd probably win re-election. The Spence Fencer. Gas dollar going up because the national oil reserve is gone. Well, there's still oil in the reserve, but I'm not sure that they're going to be able to continue draining it. At some point, I would think it would be strategically. I don't think the military would allow it. At some point, the generals have got to speak up and say, Mr. Biden, I'm sorry, but you can't keep using this as a piggy bank to decline the price by 15 cents a gallon. Because that's mainly for if there's a major disaster and you're draining it so quickly, there's not going to be anything left. So keep in mind, CNN is painting as bleak a forecast as possible. CNN sounds like fucking Tucker Carlson on the economy right now. This is CNN business. This isn't an opinion piece. Concerns escalate over San Francisco's rising crime hurting business. Oh, and here's why. The CEO of a real estate company was robbed at gunpoint outside of his San Fran home. Isn't this a little bit like when the BLM riots, in the wake of Kavanaugh, of course, spiraled across the country and, billions in damage were done, dozens of people killed, hundreds or thousands injured, enormous numbers of businesses lost, et cetera, et cetera. They forced a lockdown at the White House. Do you remember? I've returned to this subject several times in the wake of Martha's Vineyard NIMBYism, which we will be talking about separately, by the way, on this live stream. There was a shining moment at which Los Angeles and nearby areas were having rioting and looting and arson, and nothing was being done. People would call up the cops and nothing would be done. But then there was a famous picture now of all the sheriff's cars and shit drawn up at the end of Beverly Hills, like right where you would enter the posh neighborhoods where all the celebrities live. And it was like a small goddamn army. So they would defend Beverly Hills, but they wouldn't defend anyone else. Nobody on the left was talking about the crime in San Francisco as a problem, which now they are, until a CEO happens to be robbed outside of his house. The idea is that they have properties there too, and they really don't want them to be burned to the ground because they don't want to have to rebuild them, even if the taxpayers will fund it through their limitlessly granted insurance that they all can afford. That's very, very funny. It becomes front page news when the CEO gets robbed. If 1,000 other people get robbed, middle or lower classers, nobody gives a damn all of a sudden. BW, I can't believe the leftoids are freaking out about Italy so much, but not a word about Sweden. That's the one that should bother them. Yeah, and they're trashing the new prime minister of Italy, despite being a strong, empowered woman who don't need no fucking commies. She's the first female prime minister of Italy. You should be celebrating the glass ceiling getting cracked in yet another country. Oh, but she disagrees with you for ideological reasons. Therefore, Italian woman bad, I guess, is the new line. Jack Perry, 2/3 of the GOP now Trump-backed. Get out 2022, no rhinos. Yeah, it's been consistently above 50% that want Trump for 2024. There's hardly a poll that's been conducted in a year and a half that shows him under that. The Spencer, gas going up because the National Oil Reserve is gone. I think you already posted that, or maybe I read it twice. Oops. Princess, gas in Alabama, $3.26, still going down here. Okay, so gas is going down there in your area in Alabama. Again, I need more data points, though. I need people to feed me news. So I've got my DMs open on Twitter. Friendly Neighborhood Sawyer, Biden sold strategic oil to China, paying his due. Yeah, he doesn't need to pay his due. It's just a strategic blunder on his part. Rider of the Metal Horse on Rumble. We could fix this issue faster by returning jobs to the U.S. and removing unnecessary regulations and let the free market sort out most of it. Yes, but that would create competition and burden for the big corporations that fund the politicians. They wouldn't want that, would they? They don't want an actual capitalistic economy. They want something much closer to socialism. Next story. Harris focuses Asia trip on security and adds tour to Korea's DMZ. Yes, we are sending the least liked politician, arguably, in all of the United States, Kamala Harris. And one of the least intelligent and one of the most poorly spoken, other than maybe Biden himself on a more coherent day. Over to the DMZ. And I was thinking of a situation where what would happen if the North Koreans dart out of the DMZ and grab her and nab her? And then a couple days later, they say, we can't deal with this shit. You take her back. We're really sorry. And peace breaks out because they abduct Kamala Harris onto the North Korean side. But she's so insufferable and so nuts and so terrible to be around and probably smells foul as well and has 5 or 6 STDs, by the way, that they force her back across. She's like, oh, well, I really love this North Korean food. I love your people. Communism is what we want for our nation, too. And they say, this person is nuts. And just shove her back across. That would be so funny. It could happen. Hello Radio Lives. Any notes? Ann Coulter's anti-Trump comments. She's been doing that for years. She's trying to straddle the fence to regain what little relevance she ever had. Smoo Johnson, a cute stray cat, comes around to our house often, so I started feeding it with wet food and a water dish here and there. Should I feel guilty? No, why would you feel guilty for feeding the kitty? Although maybe not mushy food. It might already be, give it some crunchy. Apache Senpai. I'm in Georgia and gas has been dropping here too. It's $2.75 at Costco and $2.89 at regular stations. Oh, that's good. I would note that Georgia and Alabama are in the part of the country that typically has had the lowest gas prices, so maybe there's something else going on in the blue states? I don't know. Incognito, Northern New Jersey gas $3.23 and been at that for a week. Yeah, so we're sending Kamala Harris to the DMZ. I'm sure that this will bring peace to the Korean Peninsula. The war will be over. Communists and capitalists will get along again because fucking Kamala Harris goes over there. And is she going to visit the border like the DMZ? The same way that she visited the U.S. southern border, which she is actually czar over? Her idea of visiting the southern border was to very briefly get near a border station to take a couple of photo ops and then leave. So is she just going to get like within sight of the DMZ, look at it for a few minutes with binoculars, talk to a couple people, take a selfie for someone's Instagram and then leave? I bet she probably will. That's not hyperbole. She seems to do as little as possible. She's not doing her job. And she should be fired for this. Grandpa Nurgle, I'm in Maine. Gas is about $3.25, but if I go down to Massachusetts, it's well into the $4 range. Yeah, I don't know what it's like in Vermont at this point. Oh, Black Raven, it's been going back up in Vermont. Yeah, not a surprise. So it seems it's a hit or miss right now. The gas price is destabilizing. Kamala is going to give a lot of head along the way. Yeah, she's probably still doing that shit. You know, imagine being her cuck husband. Oh, Jesus. Remember that I don't need you. I am the Vice President of the United States, and you should know your place. Next story, the FBI's Matt Gaetz operation sidelined an effective Republican voice at a crucial time. That was the point. Yeah, no shit. Gaetz was a highly effective member of Congress. Then all that changed with the publication of an anonymously sourced report accusing him of possibly being a child sex trafficker. Of course, we got corroboration a few days ago. There is absolutely no evidence that Matt Gaetz did anything wrong. The only thing that they have is testimony by people whose testimony they're not even going to put before a court because it's not reliable. Not only is he not guilty of this, he's so not guilty, they didn't even bring charges. That is, by the way, a step above being found not guilty. I know that the opposite is kept in mind by people who have Matt Gaetz derangement syndrome, but if you're investigated, especially for a prolonged period as he was, or Donald Trump, and you're never even indicted on any crime, it means that you're pretty squeaky clean, because they tend to go on fishing expeditions and look through literally everything. The fact is that Matt Gaetz didn't traffic anyone. He didn't fuck a minor. He didn't do anything. And he has been crucified by the lamestream media, by craptivists, and by others, seeking to create a sort of self-fulfilling truth. And this has happened before. The idea is that if you get big tech and legacy media especially together, they can astroturf a concept about someone, and as long as they can do that for a prolonged enough period of time, it becomes accepted as truth by a large number of people, even if it is later proven to be false. I didn't see CNN running a main headline story of this other than saying, well, the prosecutors declined to recommend charges. Here's the top 5 reasons why he's probably still guilty. Yeah, he should sue many of these individuals. Many of them are still, even though he's not going to be charged, they're still declaring. They're not saying it's possible. They're not saying they believe. They are declaring him guilty of child sex trafficking. That is self-evidently false for legal purposes, and he ought to sue them. He ought to go all in as hard as he can, go in dry, and sue a couple of these people, not only to make a fortune, which I'm sure would please him because he's a politician. They tend to be money grubbing, but just out of principle. It should be much more costly and much more painful to defame people in the United States. Ozzy's Robots was predicting a recession for over a year. Goldman, BlackRock, and my own financial advisors finally concur. Can we all agree experts are morons? Yeah, it's like Paul Krugman a year later will finally say, well, I guess we're finally at a recession. He'll be in the bread line. He's rich enough so he can afford the extra, rotten head of cabbage. He'll still have his suit on, even though it's unlaundered for a year, which is probably normal for him. And he'll say, well, he'll remark to himself while in line, mumbling and shaking his head. Finally, I guess the Biden economy, it's not as good as I expected it to be. By the way, I predicted this. Yeah, the internet no longer exists, so he can just lie outright. Silver Kestrel. Northeast Texas has been around 308 for a while. Again, part of the country where it tends to be on the lower end. Sparky, Kamala did a great job provoking Russia at Munich Security Conference. We'll see how well she does with North Korea. Yeah, North Korea is way worse than Russia to deal with. Trump again takes a major W on that one, you will remember. Joker One, want to take bets Harris looks at the DMZ with the lens cap still on the binoculars like oh vomit. Possible, yeah. With her, you never know. Although Trump did look at the eclipse without his protective glasses on, so I'm not going to be a hypocrite about that one. Politicians do derpy shit sometimes. I got to put in the characters again in order to dump pixels on what used to be Cyprus. Just take a look again, link in the description. Cyprus has effectively disappeared. There's only a blob right in the middle of where you will spawn there that's still left. Just pixel that in with that really light blue of the ocean. We're having some fun. Should be a couple of hours before the Turkish streamer potentially comes back on. And I think that he himself got banned. So all he's going to do is live stream like everyone else doing the shit. I, on the other hand, actually join in. I think that Clankdom deserves me to do that. Donna K, 359 to 369 in mid-Missouri, although our gas cartel keeps it 10 to 20 cents above everyone around us. Yeah, I'm getting lots of gas news here. It's easier if people DM me on Twitter with their gas prices, especially with fluctuations. If you have like pictures or anything, because some people are reporting that it's skyrocketing, some that it's still slowly falling, and some that it's basically the same. So it could have to do with where in the nation you are. It could be storm related, technically speaking, to tell the truth. Next one, beside a golden door. The Martha's Vineyard affair illustrates the divide between those at the top who set policy and those at the bottom who must live with it. Oh, yes, indeed. God bless the poor, impoverished residents of Martha's Vineyard. For a period of 44 hours, their sidewalks were sullied, their espresso bars disrupted, and their hate has no home here signs trodden upon by an invasion of 48 illegal migrants from Venezuela. Less than 2 days after their arrival, the self-declared and certainly self-styled sanctuary city proclaimed the situation a humanitarian crisis and hurriedly loaded the migrants on a bus to send them to the nearest military base. Yes, and for some reason they're suing DeSantis over this, by the way, the illegals that were there. I like how they still pretend that these are asylum seekers. That term no longer has any legal meaning because it appears that anyone can appear at the border, pretend to be of any nationality, and say, I'm seeking asylum, and because there's no remain in Mexico policy, they're free to go. They're free to go live under a highway underpass, or a Republican governor may see it in the kindness of their heart to give them a bus ticket. I think I would take the latter if I were to choose. Hey, and stay here in the Rio Grande Valley, live under a bridge with 10,000 other people in squalor. Or you can at least take your chance. You can go to a state that has a sanctuary system set up because they pretend to love you for political reasons. Oh, I'll go and take the generosity of New York City or D.C. Not Chicago, though. I think I'd rather just stay in the tent under the overpass than go there. Tell the truth. Reality paranormal. Methinks I'm making the best pot of chili of my life, and I'm not going around to eat it tonight. I'm being sent to a medical shelter because of the hurricane. Hope baby Sticks is doing well. I hope that your chili doesn't end up flying through the air because of the hurricane. Good luck. Be safe. Music and fiction. Woodburn, Oregon. $4.25 for regular. High state gas tax. California has that problem too. M. If Dems had these magic powers to flip elections like the Black Pillars think, why did they lose Virginia horribly? Yeah, because they were honking only in one race because that's all they had the manpower to do. And now they have even less manpower because of all the precincts that Bannon gobbled up. Nick V, up about 40 cents in the last 3 weeks or so in Cleveland, Ohio. Yeah, I'm wondering if there must be a localized effect at some points, like a refinery that supplied a specific area, like, blows up or something. There's got to be some sort of rhyme or reason to it. It can't just be gouging. And there is, by the way, some price gouging that goes on. Lapse of apathy. Do you think the COVID lockdowns and the now normalized remote work is a trial run for environmental lockdowns for the formerly known Agenda 21 Great Reset? Yes, not really a trial run, but more like turning lemons into lemonade. I don't think that the China virus was meant to be released in the form that it was released in. I think that it was an accidental release of a bioweapon developed to solve their demographic crisis. Unfortunately, it then went worldwide and caused economic havoc, and I don't know that the Chinese actually meant to because it's fucking with them too. The Liberty Bowl. Morning Sticks, can I get a channel shout out? You just did. And the final piece of news. Eye-opening poll shows GOP far ahead in battleground states. Yes, the GOP, here's the problem. When we look at the generic ballot, we're looking at the whole nation. What does it mean if the Democrats get a couple million extra voters fired up in California and New York? Little. It means maybe something in a couple of the swing districts in those states. What does it mean if the GOP all of a sudden has massive turnout in rural areas? Not much. Most of those rural Senate seats are GOP anyway. Many of those rural seats in the House are already majority GOP. It just bolsters them up. It helps them retain seats that are on the edge, but it doesn't really help them otherwise. The fact is that if you look at the polls of specifically vulnerable Senate and House candidates, the GOP is taking 2-1. I've analyzed this in my midterm predictions a few days ago. There's other polling here. I can't find out exactly where it is. Here's the actual most important key message in this poll. And it's only one poll, so take it with a grain of salt, but it's pretty lopsided. The GOP is favored in 3 of the 4 issues rated most important by voters. The economy, considered important by 84%, education, 77%, inflation, 76%, and crime, 69%. The only one in which the Democrats have a small lead is on education and schooling. Again, there's a reason that I question individual polls because it seems to be an outlier. If the GOP goes into the election leading on the main issues, even if they are behind in the generic ballot, they will retake the House and probably have a lead in the Senate. Michael Moore's prediction of a blue wave is certainly not going to happen. I've said for a while now, and there's a roughly 50-50 shot in the Senate. I now favor the GOP, though, to take a Senate seat. Just one, but, it's meaningful. I don't think the Democrats will gain an explicit lead. 2 gubernatorial seats and between 25 and 30 House seats. I think it'll be closer to the higher end. I'm underestimating probably the House gain of the Republicans when I say that. We will get more polling in many more races closer to the actual midterms, and when that happens, I'll be able to give more accurate predictions. If the issues remain the same and the economy remains the same, so it doesn't even need to falter further. Inflation stays linear. Unemployment stays relatively low. Everything else remains the same. The GOP will win. My prediction is prefaced on the economy not falling out further. But it appears that that's already happening. You'll have all of October for continuously mounting negative data and one final set for October right before the midterms, before people go to vote. If that's the case and there are negative economic indicators, because 2 of those main issues are about the economy, and because the schooling issue is near a 50-50 and crime, is a tertiary issue at best, the Republicans will probably gain more. They might gain 40 seats. 37, by the way, is the average when the president who's sitting has a 10% or worse, 10-point or worse gap in approval. Biden has closer to 15 at this point. If that remains the same, 40 would be closer to the average metric. If the economy's shit, you would expect that metric to be even wide. It could be 45. I'm just not ready to predict that. It could throw a couple more Senate seats their way. I'm not ready to predict that, but it's possible. It could give them a 3rd gubernatorial pickup. Again, I'm being very, quote unquote, pardon the pun, conservative with my estimations of what happens in the midterms. Grevin Share, Greeks begging for help on Pixel Planet Fun. Lol. Trump 2024. We are busy sinking Cyprus into the ocean. I'm not going to make general videos anymore about Pixel Planet because it fucks with the YouTube algorithm. We're just griefing right now. We're just sinking an entire major-ass island into the ocean in retribution for them vainly attempting to grief us in Clankdom. We've already restored all the damage, dude. Clankdom is stronger than they expected. Again, though, link in the description on both platforms, Rumble and YouTube, and pinned at the top of chat if you're on YouTube. If you take that, just take that light blue pixelation, you're going to see a blob of red and white in the middle of your screen. Just lay waste to it and destroy anything else around the area that you feel inclined to destroy. You can go up into Turkey and grief their symbol up there too, their giant moon and star. By the way, no more super chats, please. I'll probably keep it a little bit shorter today. Lapse of apathy. Do you think the COVID lockdowns and the now normalized remote work is... Oh, I already read that one. Sorry. And I read that one too. Nick V, I heard a refinery in Toledo, Ohio caught fire. Okay, that might have something to do with it if there's a sudden jump in the price. Expecting shortages, so you try to dumb down demand a little bit. Musically assured destruction. Seeing leftoids trying to astroturf the idea that globalist is an anti-Semitic trope. I don't think Bill Gates or even Klaus Schwab are Jewish. No, that's been going around for a while. I think that Wikipedia actually listed as anti-Semitism, if I remember correctly, which it's not. I mean, globalism is just a form of imperialism. It's like European monarchism, only the monarchs decided, hey, we'll just split up the world in a sort of trust system instead of stabbing each other in the back, trying to individually conquer it all. We'll still run it. We'll still work together. It's not like we don't all party together and snort coke anyway. Smooth Johnson, could honk-like behavior in November 2022 alter your predictions about Republicans taking the House? Or are midterms less prone to such activity? They are less prone. We saw this in 2020. The Republicans had 6 different houses that were being targeted at the state level by Dems. The Dems lost them all, and they even retook another state house they weren't expected to take. They had an advantage in the gubernatorial slots. They significantly narrowed the House lead, and MAGA candidates up and down the ballot did well. both local and state level. They kicked ass. You've got 10 times as many MAGA candidates right now as you had then. Why do you think alarm bells are going off in the legacy media? And they keep saying things like, oh my God, if we don't reject MAGA, we're going to end up with fascism, just like the evil Italians over there. Spaghetti fascism. Oh, they might develop meatball supremacy. By the way, they are superior to Swedish meatballs. I don't know why anyone eats those Italian-style meatballs. To all of the Italian viewers out there, you have won. That particular debate has gone your way. There is no comparison to real Italian-style meatballs. Silky Johnson. There was a fire in the Toledo, Ohio BP refinery recently. Seems odd there's been so many fires in places like that and food-related facilities. Yeah, I wonder why. Second largest food distributor in the world the other day in France burned to the ground. People are beginning to notice. The proles are waking up. Greven share. Oh, yes, I read that out. The Greeks are begging us for help. You can go, once Cyprus is gone, you can go and help the Greeks if you want. Clankdom's down in Africa. You can clean that up too. Miku 4X bot. We will remove all who oppose. Clankshala. I like it. Yeah, I'm pixeling in. Don't worry. We probably still got about an hour before the Turkish streamer potentially goes live. He might lose interest at some point. I don't know. When he realizes it's just fucking with his algorithm. We've got a giant Ouroboros off the shore of Africa, the 10.2 monument. We cleaned all that shit up. The only thing is there's a big sign that says clank, and they griefed that. Nobody's bothered to clean it up, but nobody gives a shit, I suppose. No offense to the person who built it. It is pretty cool, but right now we've got to make Cyprus an underwater city. It will only be admissible by submarine. Travis Tolbert, Sticks gas here in North Texas spiked by 40 cents overnight a week ago and has been slowly dropping back to $2.90 today. Yeah, see, there's no rhyme or reason behind it. I have no clue what's going on. Ultramaga 721 on Rumble. Trump should run ads with a collage of Biden sniffing children. And in the background, she was 12 and I was 30. He comments on a loop on every channel every week until the midterms. It would be wise to troll him that way, but it wouldn't really work because everyone has already decided whether Biden is or is not perverted. If you're a Biden fan, you think it's bullshit. If you really hate Biden, you say, well, maybe it's possible. It's not going to affect any independent voters. Focus on the economy and crime and the border. Focus on the good times of Trump versus the shit times of Joe Biden. Bunny Rarabit, I believe the CCP developed the man-made virus to unleash it on the protesting Hong Kong people. Remember, they were protesting in the streets. No reason to. That wouldn't make sense. Develop a bioweapon that kills several million of your own people just to own Hong Kong. No, it's to get rid of the old and sick. It was being engineered. They intended, in my opinion, to engineer it further, to make it more lethal for the old and the sick and less lethal for everyone else. Highly transmissible, but ultimately not a problem for the average person. I don't think they intended it to get out in the current form that it was. My belief is that some janitor was tasked with taking the test specimen bats or rats or whatever was being used and incinerating them. But then they saw the wet market and said, well, it's bonus day, I suppose. Hey, I've got a bunch of animals here. Look, they're perfectly healthy. They're alive and fresh. Grown under lab conditions. Nice sweet meat. Just sell these to people. And then that's how it started. I have a feeling it was an underpaid commie janitor or a lower level staff member, a nurse or something in the biolab that caused the COVID pandemic. You'll never know, though. China's good at covering up its shit. Fontana, second rodeo. What do you use on plants to keep bugs away? Clank. Not really anything, actually. I have some aphid spray out there. I don't even know what's in it because it's all in Dutch. It's probably deadly poison. I'm probably going to get brain damage from using it. Sparky, key globalist Tony Blair isn't Jewish either. Yeah, no, most of the sickos in the world are just regular white people. You know, white males especially. They tend to be in the rungs of politics in the Western world. Jose Alba. Today is my birthday. Well, happy birthday, Jose. Don't eat birthday cake because it's bad for you. Eat something nice and herby and savory instead. Fuck cake and pie and shit like that. I don't want to get diabetes. I don't like sweets. I don't know if I've mentioned that much. By the way, 6,000 people watching live. Shit, you should all pour into Pixel Planet. Just humor me and take the link anyway, just so there's a massive surge of people and they get all confused. You know, they've got a chat there too. It is fun to troll. Yesterday, by the way, 4 or 5 times in a row, all of the Turkish users were range banned from using chat because they were just completely spamming it to hell. And it reminded me of the good old days of ICQ chat. And I'm not going to lie, I actually kind of like that the Turkish streamers and griefers are pouring onto the platform, because it reminds me of the good old days when it was just absolute fucking chaos. Bots and spam and rampant bigotry. There's literally no censorship in chat, by the way. So if you want to see some edgy shit, you'll find it there. When you get people from half a dozen different countries having a conversation over religion, sometimes it gets a little bit dicey. I should probably make an account there just to screw with people. And the last chat, Cyberbeep. Morning, Sticks. Hope you and your family are well today. What do you think there is so much pushback against the NFA, GCA, and ATF? Are the leftoids giving up, or is something more sinister? Clank. I think people are pushing back because they suck. They just didn't realize that they sucked before. A lot of people are waking up to that, especially with Intel and similar agencies. So yeah, we're just sinking Cyprus into the ocean, but I think I'll go offline. Don't worry, I'll still be dabbling around on Pixel Planet. We've pretty much eliminated an entire island in the course of about an hour, which is really, really great. That's about all. Peace out.